What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Cjthecheesedj here, and we are back with a brand new top 7 for you guys today. Part of our revamping of the top 10, top 5, top whatever number series. And today we are talking about top 7 base defense dinos. Now, on this list, we will be including external base defense dinos. We do have another video planned for internal base defense dinos. This one is going to be exclusively looking at dinos that can sit outside of your base and defend it. So guys, without further ado, let's jump in to number 7. Alrighty guys, and coming in at number 7, we have the Parasaur. Now, the reason the Parasaur comes in at number 7 is because of his unique ability of being able to sense where enemies are. Now, this can include anything from wild dinos to players and player tames. Now, you can currently see here that it has a few options. So the first option is players only, players and tames, creatures, and all. So this is really effective for defending your base to see if any other sort of enemy players are incoming, especially if you've got the alert settings set to players only, because your Parasaur will only go off if he senses players, and you can kind of get a rough pinpoint location of where exactly they are. So if you are near your base, you can actually see where the enemy is, and you can determine what to do from there. You can either go about killing him, whether you're playing on a PvP server, let him be, or just do what you want. These guys are great for that particular example. Now, as well as that, which it's not really a big deal, but they do have the ability to scare away smaller tames. I think anything up to a Raptor, they are actually able to scare away. Whether that would be a player Raptor, I highly doubt it. I also highly doubt that people would bring Raptors along to a PvP raid. So yeah guys, the Parasaur is definitely not to be underestimated now, especially with this buff that he received in his TLC, and I would definitely recommend getting yourselves a Parasaur. And he comes in at number 7 on the list. Now guys, coming in at number 6, we have the Thylakolias. Now, a lot of people don't really utilize these guys all that much for base defense because they just don't think they're really all that worth it. But I can tell you, the Thylakolias have saved my life on more than one raid. Now, I've had enemy players come in and try to raid me, and I've had Thylakolias positioned around my base on the, not on the ceilings, but on the base wall, on the behemoth's walls, like as you can see right now. And it has actually saved my base because the Thylakolias has pounced on the enemy player, killed them, and then just gone back to doing his normal duty. So guys, if you aren't aware, the Thylakolias has the ability to latch onto vertical ceilings, vertical terrain. You can see here that he's currently stuck on our behemoth gate, and he can then pounce if he's set to neutral or aggressive. And this will allow you to pull the player off their mount, whether they be on a flyer, whether they be on like a trike or a stego. And if they are on a trike or a stego, the Thylakolias can then still go about killing the trike and the Thylakolias while the turrets finish off your player if he's sitting behind them soaking. You get what I'm going with that. So the Thylakolias definitely has his uses. You can see there we just did it to this poor Kairuku and he just got destroyed. That is what happens to a player if they come too close to your base and the Thylakolias are set to that position. Now, you can obviously jump off them as well and leave them in that position so that if anything wild or an enemy player comes along, they'll actually pounce on them and kill them. You can see here, this poor little Kairuku is coming around. Now guys, coming in at number 5, we have a pile of dirt. Love me a pile of dirt. So guys, number 5 is the Pelovia. Now, traditionally, these guys are used to hide a lot of resources and base stuff because they've got quite a large weight and they are able to hide underground where they can't be sensed by players or dinos unless they have, obviously, a Parasaur and a Direwolf. But these guys are great for actually fighting enemy players because of their ability to pounce on the player and stun them. So, for example, you pair a Pelovia with a Thylakolias and that player is not going to survive. You can simply set these guys onto aggressive, and if any enemy players or dinos come into the vicinity of the Pelovia, he'll simply pounce out and shred them a new butthole. So it's definitely worth investing into Pelovias, as well as that they also have pretty decent melee damage and HP. So if you do get a pretty strong one and you breed them up, you get mutations and all that, you can find yourself having quite a few strong Pelovias, and that they can turn the tide of the battle if you are getting raided. So I would definitely recommend getting some Pelovias, as well as that if you don't really want to use them to attack the enemies, you can still always use them to hold your loot. For example, if you're getting raided and you've got a couple of Pelovias and they manage to get inside your base, you can simply go to one of your Pelovias, pull out some guns or anything like that that you've stuck in their inventory, and you can then take the fight to the enemy player and hopefully claim back some of your base. So it's definitely worth investing in some Pelovias, and I would definitely recommend getting some for your base. And holy crap guys, this Anki is actually amazing. Alrighty guys, now coming in at number 4 is, believe it or not the Giga. So the Giga is for demonstration purposes today, and you can see number 4 is directly in front of us, the Kentrosaurus. Now the Kentrosaurus is a really great tame due to the fact that it has the ability to reflect some of the damage back onto the attacker. Now you can currently see here that we just did a rough amount of damage. I didn't actually see how much damage we did. Let's do this again. So the main point of the Kentros is that they reflect damage back on the attacker. You saw there that we did about 497 damage, and we ourselves took about 300, I think that said, in between the numbers. So the Kentros are doing damage to us. You can currently see our health, like we are losing a lot of health. So the Kentrosauruses, if you get a good line with a good amount of HP and melee damage, they can definitely take out Gigas. Like, they are probably one of the best ways to counter a Giga, and I would heavily recommend using them in order to do so, because the ability that the Kentros have in order to make anything bleed, even like Rexes, like Trikes, Rhinos, Rexes, anything that they are using to attack, you can use your Kentros to counter them to a certain extent, because of that ability to reflect damage. You can see here we're doing one bite, and look at this. The Kentros are actually killing us, because, well, technically we're killing ourselves. But these guys are absolutely nuts, and I would heavily recommend getting a bunch of Kentros surrounded around your base in order to defend it, because they are ridiculous. Just from that small amount of Kentros, our Giga is almost dead. So imagine what it would do to your opponent's one. So guys, the Kentro comes in at number 4 on the list. Alrighty guys, coming in at number 3, we have the Rock Golem. Now, the Rock Golem makes it onto the list due to his tankiness. So this guy is one of the tankiest creatures you can get in all of Ark. Granted, they're a little bit difficult to tame, but they definitely make up for it with their damage as well as their health. So you can currently see there we just punched a Dire Bear and did 369 damage to him. Now, this Dire Bear is dealing 41 to 66 damage to us. If we were to get our Anki involved into this, you'll see that the Dire Bear actually deals more damage to the Anki than it is actually doing to us. That is because the Rock Golems take reduced damage, and you can see there he's dealing 165 damage. That is a huge amount of difference in between the Rock Golem and the Anki. So these guys reduce the amount of damage that they take by a large amount, as well as that they're also really good soakers, and you can actually use them in a turret mode. So in this turret mode, you can actually pick up boulders and lob them at enemy players or enemy dinos or enemy tames, you name it. Now obviously the turret mode's AI isn't that great, but it can hit the shots. All you need to do is go into behavior, change the stance to aggressive, and enable turret mode. Now you can see here is the ability to enable turret mode. He is on aggressive, so if anything does come nearby, it should technically attack. It will attack when players or enemy tames do come into range, and if you chuck some stone into him as well, just to weigh him down, you'll find that he actually won't give chase, and he'll just stand there lobbing boulders at enemies, which is really great. So if we, for example, just come up to him and we go unclaim, you can see there, whoa, that was close. Okay, our Anki is actually damaging him. We don't want to lose our Anki. You can see that he's lobbing boulders at us. He's lobbing boulders at our Anki. So, you know, you can utilize this guy to take on enemies and enemy tames. And he is a really good, like, damage dealer as well as tank. So guys, the Rock Elemental, Rock Golem, whatever the hell you want to call him, comes in at number 3. Alrighty guys, and coming in at number 2, we have the Raptor. Now, the Raptor, a lot of you are probably going to be wondering, well, why is the Raptor on the list for? The Raptor, in my opinion, is probably one of the best base defense dinos you can get, due to it having the ability to pull enemy players off their mount. For example, if someone is soaking on a trike, and you've got a couple of Raptors wandering around on aggressive, the Raptor will actually have the ability to pull the player off the trike and stop the soaking from happening. The raptors can then kill the enemy player if you've got a pack of them running around your base, which I normally tend to like having because of that ability to put off any enemy players off their mounts. As well as that, they do pair nicely with some of the other dinos you can include around your base, including the Rock Elemental and the Thylakolias. These are just, in my opinion, since they got that buff, ridiculously good for base defense because they have that ability to pull enemy players off. If you do manage to get a really good line of raptors, these guys can get in excess of 6k health and easily get up to 400-500 melee damage, which does about 70 damage a pop. So these guys are incredible for base defense, and if you don't want them wandering around too much, do remember that you can just use leashes. You can use leashes for everything and to prevent it from wandering around outside a certain zone. So guys, raptors come in at number 2. Let's move on to the final creature on the list. Alrighty guys, and finally at number 1, definitely the creature that deserves this spot more than anything else are the Valenosaurs. Now, the Valenosaurs have a very similar turret mode to the Rock Elemental in that they can fire their spindles or their spines at enemies. Now, if you set them too aggressive, like I said, bring the leashes in because the leashes are great, although they should not chase after whatever it is that they are shooting at. So you can see here, disable turret mode, stance aggressive, set them all to aggressive. These guys will target enemy players, enemy tames, wild dinos. You can see here, this Kentro has just been spawned in. Look at that, boom. Shooting straight into him. Damn, that's a pretty strong Kentro. Now you can see here, they did pretty well. They tore it apart in relatively well time. If you've got a couple of these guys with some health mutations and stamina mutations, you can have these guys shooting non-stop at whatever your opponent throws at you. So they are definitely worth investing in, and I honestly think there is no other creature more deserving than on this top spot than the Valenosaur guys, like without a doubt. Now, one thing to note, no matter how much you pump their melee damage up, their spindle damage while in turret mode will never increase. You can see here, this guy's got 361 melee damage. He was dealing 20 damage to that Kentrosaur. If we spawn in another Kentrosaur, you'll see that he will still do 20 damage to it. You can see there, they're both doing 20 damage to him, and look at that. This is only 2 of them. People situate like 20 of these guys around their bases because they don't count as turrets, so they get extra uses. As well as that, they also have the ability to ground flyers, which is invaluable. So guys, that'll wrap up today's top 7. Let me know what you thought of it down below in the comments. Let me know whether you enjoyed it or not, if you've got any other suggestions, any of the dinos that you would like to see on this list. If not, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more of these top 5, top 10s, top 7 videos as well, guys. So, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.